Hello everybody, this is Mark from Harley Racing, Riding and Repair, and I am going to make a video here today to give you a few tips on how I bled my brakes on my 2007 Harley Davidson Sportster Roadster model. It's a 1200R with a rubber mounted motor and the fuel injection, but I did some changes to the front end on this bike and I needed to bleed the brakes. This model has dual discs front end with the stock Harley master cylinder, and I had problems. I had a lot of trouble trying to bleed it the conventional way, which is pumping the handle, holding it down, and then going down to the bleeders, cracking the bleeders till the handle depressed, leave the handle depressed, and re-tighten the bleeders. And I messed around with it for hours and I couldn't get any type of a handle on it. So I did some research and tried a couple different methods that ended up working for me. The first one that I did was, I'm going to mount the camera here, try to give you an idea. I took the cap off, which I'll do here, the cap off the master cylinder on the handlebars, and I made sure that the fluid level was all the way to the top, which it is. And then I took a clamp, or you can use a zip tie, and I zip tied the handle shut, or clamped it shut. Do whatever. If you don't have a clamp, though, a zip tie works good. And then what I did was I let it set overnight with the clamp on the handle. And what that is supposed to do is, if there are any bubbles in the system, it will allow the bubbles to come up into the master cylinder and get out of the system, and then depress the brake. Well, I came in the morning, and they say after you do that in the morning, when you let the handle loose, let it loose very slowly, they say. And then they say to let it sit for maybe about 10 minutes before you try anything, because something about it lets the rest of the air bubbles come up. And then you go ahead and you try it. Well, when I tried it, it didn't pump up. It wasn't right. But some people say that that's the trick. So okay, that was my first trick. You got to be careful. I just squirted a little .4 out of there, and you don't want to get .4 anywhere on your bike. But the next method I used that worked was I made sure that the reservoir was full, and you have to have a bottle of, in this case it's .4, and I went down to the bottom to the caliper, and what you do, so you don't get a mess all over the floor, you take the cap off the caliper bleeder. You got to find a clear rubber plastic hose that'll fit on there, and I put it in an old .4 container, even though I throw the .4 away, but that way you don't make a mess, because boy, I made a lot of messes with trying to bleed brakes. And then what you do, make sure that the top is clear again, is full, and you have to be ready with some additional .4 if you're going to use this method. And this method is you just let it run through. You open up the bleeder, and I'm not going to do it now because this has already been bled, and then you watch in the line. And as you watch, it'll just self-bleed from gravity down, and you leave the handle just out on the bike. You don't mess with it, you don't have it tied or anything. And you'll see that you'll see fluid start coming through, and it's just a gravity feed. And then you might see some air bubbles is what you want to see, and then you want to see the air bubbles stop coming through. And then I close this side. You'll probably have to refill the reservoir, the master cylinder. And then I went and did it to the other side. And when I did the gravity feed method, like I'm talking about now, that's the one that worked. I came back up to the handle, I depressed it a few times, and I had some pressure. So then I bled it the normal way. I held the handle down after pumping it, went down, and cracked the bleeder, and I ended up with a good handle, but good brakes. But I couldn't get it at all just doing the conventional method of pumping, going down, opening the bleeder on the caliper. It wouldn't work. The method that finally worked for me was just the gravity feed, and it only took a few minutes. So again, fill up the master cylinder on the handlebar, go down to the caliper, or calipers in this case, have a line on it, crack it open. You'll see it just gravity feeds down. You'll see it coming out of the tube into the container, and hopefully you'll see some air bubbles, and then the air bubbles will stop. And it only took a few minutes, and then you close the bleeder off and go to the other side and do the same. Come back up, and boy, I was really surprised. Just a gravity feed takes a few minutes, and that solved all my problems. For some reason or another, just the gravity feed pushed the air bubbles that were in the lines in the T underneath. In this case, when it's dual disc, it's got a T underneath the bottom of the triple tree that tees off into two lines. And it gave me a break after messing around with it for hours. Just a few minutes of the gravity feed that I had never heard of before. So give it a try next time you're trying to bleed your brakes or struggling with the conventional method. It may just solve your issue. It certainly did mine. Small little tip for something that can be very problematic and very frustrating. So just takes a few minutes. Give you a quick little span of my other bikes in my garage here. I work, own, ride. I'm an enthusiast. There's a MV Augusta 2015 Dragster RR. And another one of my newer bikes there. It's a 2016 BMW R1200 RS. Great bike. I love that bike. It's the boxer motor with 125 horse. And I got a KTM over here, a Super Duke. It's a 2014 1290R. And I have a Harley 2018 Sport Glide here. Great bike. Well, I ride, collect, own, enjoy wide variety of bikes. But hopefully this little bleeding issue on this Harley Sportster will help you next time. It's called gravity feed. Just fill up the reservoir. Don't have to do anything with the handle. Go down, open up the bleeder on the caliper, just let it run through. Takes about a minute or so. Close the bleeder, fill up the reservoir again. On this case it was a dual disc, so I did it on the other side, equally the same. It came up, I had handle, had brake. So, all right everyone. Well, thanks a lot for watching. I appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments, just leave them in the comment section. I'll try to get back with you as soon as I can. All right, thanks again. Bye now.